November 25th, 2025, Buddha-Dhamma, Chapter 6, Supreme Peace, 6.4, Elements of Nibbāna, page 577. The discussion so far has focused on Nibbāna as an absolute and transcendent quality. It is possible, however, to distinguish different kinds of Nibbāna. Essentially, only one Nibbāna exists. It is divided into categories in order to describe the characteristics of a person in contact with Nibbāna, or to describe various properties of Nibbāna itself. It states that ultimately Nibbāna is indivisible. The division is merely figurative. A widely known division of Nibbāna from the Itivatuka is into the two elements of Nibbāna. In Pali language is Nibbāna Dhatu. The first one is Nibbāna remaining with few, upādi. Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna dhatu. The second one is Nibbāna without no field remaining. Anupādisesa-nibbāna dhatu. Now, it's defined that the distinguishing factor here is upādi, as the five skandha, bhapa, cha, khanda, in the sense that they are governed by impure actions or subject to grasping. The definitions of these terms based on this interpretations are Nibbāna linked with the five skandha, or Nibbāna with the five skandhas still remaining, and Nibbāna free from the five skandhas. Here is the passage where the two terms appear in the Itivatuka. This was said by Gautama Buddha, the blessed and fully enlightened one. So I have heard, bhikkhus, there are these two dhatu, elements of Nibbāna, namely Nibbāna with field remaining and Nibbāna with no field remaining. And what is the Nibbāna with field remaining? Bhikkhus, there is a case of a monk who is an arahant, with taints destroyed, no more kilesas, no more asavas, who has lived the holy life, a brahmacharya, done what has to be done, laid down the burden, reached the true goal, destroyed the fetters of being, and is completely liberated through final knowledge. His five sense faculties still remain, and owing to their being intact, he experiences the agreeable and the disagreeable. He feels both pleasure and pain. His ending of lust, hatred, and delusion is termed the Nibbāna with field remaining. And what is Nibbāna with no field remaining? There is the case of an arahant with taints destroyed, his kilesas, his asavas, who is completely liberated through final knowledge. For him, all that is felt, not being delighted in, not being infatuated with, will be cool right here. This is the term Nibbāna with no field remaining. The one with vision, secure and free, has proclaimed the dual elements of Nibbāna. One element, present and visible, Dhamma, is called Nibbāna with field remaining. Exhausted are his taints, conduits to renewal existence. The other, the supreme state, is Nibbāna with no field remaining, in which all becoming totally ceases. This passage introducing the two elements describes the quality of association with Nibbāna. That is, it describes Nibbāna in connection to the enlightened beings. It uses enlightened beings as a means to understand Nibbāna. It does not attempt to explain Nibbāna in the absolute sense. This is because Nibbāna is to be seen for oneself, and it is to be experienced individually by the wise, as mentioned earlier. Therefore, this division of Nibbāna does not introduce any different kind of anything different or mysterious into the earlier examination of the nature of Nibbāna. As the commentators say, Nibbāna is essentially indivisible. The division is a dyadic tool. Before looking more closely at the two kinds of Nibbāna, let us familiarize ourselves with three important terms. The first term is Vedayita. This term stems from the same root as Vedana, and in some cases it is used as a substitute for Vedana, sense impressions. It refers to sense experience. Here, the plural Vedayitani, which refers to all objects that has been sensed or cognized. It is equivalent to what people nowadays refer to as their whole range of experience. The second term is anupādisesa-nibbāna. This term used above as a qualifying adjective for Vedayita. It is derived from abhinadita, which means pleasing or delightful. In this context, it implies infatuations, a heart adulterated by craving, and it applies to both positive and negative experience, to delight and aversion. Adding the negating prefix, the an, to it, that means becoming not infatuated. In this case, craving does not accompany sense impressions. Sense experience occurs in a pure, spacious, and unobstructive way, free from fretting and brooding. One does not distort or deviate from direct sense experience because the mind is not controlled or overwhelmed by greed, hatred, and delusion. The third term is Buddhaghosacariya. This word means visible, a visible object. In reference to time, it means in the present or in this life. In reference to the object's mental states, it means common, mundane, basic, material, or exterior. It is generally paired with samparayika, which literally means further or beyond. In the relation to time, it means future, later, beyond this life, or in the next world. In other contexts, it means transcendent, supreme, sacred, spiritual, or internal. At this point, let us look more closely to the two kinds of Nibbāna. The first one, Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna dhatu, refers to Nibbāna connected with the five skandha. If Nibbāna of arahants, as they cognize sense objects, pleasurable and painful through the senses, cognition is inextricably linked with five skandha. The five skandhas are directly involved in sense experiences, and the aggregates themselves become further objects of cognition. Now, this was discussed in Chapter 2 on sense faculties. This aspect of Nibbāna highlights arahant's contact with the world. It focuses on the end of greed, the end of hatred, and the end of delusion. The end of greed and hatred and delusion is called Nibbāna. The removal of greed, hatred, and delusion is the epithet for Nibbāna dhatu, which leads to an unobstructed experience of life. The arahant's liberated state of mind, free from defilements. An arahant are not influenced by defilements, and therefore the sense contact does not give rise to craving, either as coveting or aversion. pleasable or disagreeable. And additionally, no craving exists that leads to renewed experience. An arahant with unimpaired sense faculties is thus able to receive sense impressions freely and with wisdom. This free state of mind has two facets. The first is the ability to receive sense impressions as pure, since there is no residual attachment or obsession to interfere. The second is not being overwhelmed by experience, and thus one does not form future habits of attachment or infatuation. For an arahant, this is the ordinary usual sense of mind. It is an immediate and accessible in every moment of sense contact. Therefore, it is called Buddhadhamma, visible or immediate. This type of nibbāna is the state of an arahant while they are still alive and in contact with the external world. Now the second, with the prefix an to it, anupādisesa-nibbāna, the element which is no field left in the five skandhas with sense faculties, is nibbāna independent of the five aggregates, the skandhas. It is nibbāna beyond the process of experiencing arisen phenomenon through the five senses, or over and above the five skandhas, engaging in cognition. It is nibbāna transcending mundane reality, transcending sense contact and experience. In other words, it is the essential nature of nibbāna, which is revealed to the arahant when experienced by way of the five senses ceases to exist. When cognition ceases, or when there is no involvement with the sense contact, including input from the five senses still remaining in the mind. An arahant receives sense impressions without craving-induced delight, without the inflaming influence of greed, hatred, and delusion. Sense impressions do not linger and smolder. They become cool, extinguished. They become completely peaceful and detoxified. They are unable to lead to further birth or becoming. Arahants are capable of neutralizing any objective potential of sense experience, cooling and mastering it. They therefore acquire the epithet Siti Buddha or Sita, meaning one who is cooled. The Tathagata, perfectly quenched, is cooled like a deep lake, and one whose heart is liberated. He is here and now, hungerless, extinguished and cooled, abides experiencing bliss, having become holy. This state of clarity, absent of residual sense experience, is internal and personal. It is the state of non-becoming, or of no reward or no renewed existence. In this state, where the five skandhas are no longer objects of awareness, arahants thus have nibbāna as their object or objective goal. They realize nibbāna as Dhamma ayatana. Dhamma ayatana or Dhamma ramana are the six of the six external sense objects. The objects that the mind is conscious of, which includes the five skandhas and nibbāna. Nibbāna is Dhamma beyond the five skandha, as confirmed by the expression for nibbāna, khandha vimutti, meaning free from the five skandhas, unable to be classified within the five skandhas. This quality can only be discussed in its relational context by saying that the ordinary mundane or conscious experiences ceases. The essential absolute nature of nibbāna can only be seen and realized for oneself. An analogy of this division of nibbāna is to be shipwrecked in the ocean. An unenlightened person is swimming, struggling against the waves and currents. A person who has realized nirvana has reached dry land. The arrival at land, where one is perfectly satisfied and at ease, is like anupādisesa-nibbāna dhatu, the absence of oppression and danger, not being battered by the waves, being able to engage with things freely, and being able to move about as one wishes. One can also compare an unenlightened person to someone suffering with a fever. An enlightened person is someone who has recovered from fever or is in perfect health. Good health is inherently complete. When one is healthy, one knows this state for oneself. The contentment, joy, and ease and relief is purely subjective. Others observing from outside may conjecture on that state, but they are unable to experience it directly. This state of well-being is like anupādisesa-nibbāna dhatu. The realization of nirvana without any feel remaining, just being aware of it without any sense impression leading to hatred, greed, and delusion. The related condition which affects behavior and influence a person's surrounding. This is of not being oppressed or impeded by illness and being able to act as one wishes. It's like Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna dhatu. To summarize, there is only one nirvana, but with two aspects. One aspect is one with feel, focuses on the end of defilements, which has bearing on the relationship to the outside world and everyday life. The second is the one without feel left. It's limited to nirvana, the essential nature which is realized solely by enlightened beings. It cannot be fathomed by way of the five senses, and is beyond experience, confined to the five senses. In other words, an arahant have five aggregates as the objects of attention. In the one with the fuel that's burnt, that's not left, an arahant have nibbāna as the object for attention. So, in layman's terms, the arahant reached this destination where one focuses on getting rid of the kilesas and the defilements. And the second aspect is when the kilesas and the defilements are extinguished, then the arahant focuses on nirvana solely as the object of attention or meditation, either or. To say anupādisesa-nibbāna dhatu is nirvana, essentially, nature is compatible with the commentary opinion found in Paramata-dipani, which describes amanta-maha-nibbāna dhatu, translated in deathless nirvana element, as anupādisa, with no feel remaining. It is also consistent with Gautama Buddha's words. Monks, there exists the sphere, ayatana. These are the sense door faculties, where there is neither earth, water, fire, or air element, nor the realm of infinite space, akasha. Elsewhere, the commentaries and sub-commentaries point out that anupādisesa-nibbāna dhatu is identical to anupāta-parinibbāna, the final absolute nibbāna, which is the goal of Dhamma practice, comprises in the highest realization in Buddhist philosophy or Buddhism. In most cases, cognition by way of the five senses and contact with the external world clearly and decisively end at death. So this is the state that the arahant realized the visual, anupādisesa-nibbāna, during their lives when they enter sanya vetaniya nirota, called in short, nirota sammapati. It has outwardly resembled someone who has died, but they're still alive. With the utter sense, the end of the sense of contact at death, arahants realize the indivisible aspect of nibbāna. The term anupādisesa-nibbāna is used as an expression for the death of the arahant, and from a word denoting quality, anupādisesa-nibbāna, came to refer to the action or event. This is why they use the term tathagata in some of the texts, someone who has ended, gone to the end of extinguish. From the word denoting quality came to refer action or event. Where the words is found elsewhere in the scripture, it refers to death of the awakened Buddha or of the arahants. As the term Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna in the Tipitaka, it is not used to describe an event. It is found only in one passage of the Iti-vatuka, where there are synonyms of Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna that are frequently used. The use of anupādisesa-nibbāna and Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna to show the dual nature of nibbāna is found only once in the Tipitaka. Otherwise, one finds anupādisa-pukala and Sa-upādisa-pukala or anupādisa-nibbāna on its own to depict the death of an arahant. Note also that it has recently devised divisions of the term nibbāna for the Buddhas and the arahant, for the awakened and the one that is gone, while they are still alive. And the words parinibbāna for the death of the Buddha and the arahants is technically incorrect as it conflicts with the scriptural terminology. There are many passages in the Tipitaka where the term anupādisesa-nibbāna dhatu is used alone. For example, in Gautama Buddha's comparison for the Dhamma Vinaya to the marvels of the ocean, he puts, just as in the ocean, great ocean, neither a decease nor an increase will appear through rainfalls into it from the sky. Even so, even if many monks attain final nibbāna, in nibbāna element that is without remainder, there is no decrease or increase in the nibbāna element that is without remainder. The Mahanidesa refers to anupādisesa-nibbāna as anapinapati-sammaki, meaning fully prepared to not be reborn. The accounts in the Pali Canon, the Tipitaka, of Gautama Buddha's life frequently use the term anupādisesa-nibbāna dhatu, each time in reference to Gautama Buddha's final nibbāna at death. For example, Gautama Buddha claimed that his complexion is particularly resplendent on two occasions, on the night of his enlightenment and on the day of his final nibbāna, in nibbāna element without remainder. Alms food offered to the Buddha is exceptionally meritorious on two occasions. The meal offered before his enlightenment and the meal before his final nibbāna as nibbāna element without remainder. There are 4 examples. The location of Gautama Buddha's final nibbāna in nibbāna element without remainder is one of the 4 Buddhist holy places. Gautama Buddha's final nibbāna is nibbāna element without remainder, is one cause for the sake. One cause for the earth to quake. Another passage explains that Gautama Buddha is called the Tathagata because, this is what I was stating earlier, between the night in which Gautama Buddha gains supreme enlightenment and the night in which he attains nibbāna element without remainder, whatever he proclaims, says, or explains is so and not otherwise. There are many other scriptural passages with similar theme and identical sequence to the teaching on the two kinds of nibbāna above. The only difference is that they do not distinguish these kinds of nibbāna for the sake of comparison. Here are some examples. The first example is when a bhikkhu has abandoned avijja, ignorance, and arose true knowledge, nana, then with the discarding of ignorance and the arising of true knowledge, he does not generate a meritorious volitional formation or a demeritorious volitional formation or an imperturbable volitional formation. Since he does not generate or fashion volitional formation, he does not cling to anything in the world. Not clinging, he is not agitated. Not being agitated, he personally attains nibbāna. He understands, destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived. What has been done has been done. There is no more for the state of being. Paranisati, or the noun is paratitasana, has a range of meaning, including to fear, to tremble, to be agitated, or to be anxious, to be disturbed. The second example is if he feels a pleasant feeling, he understands it is impermanent. He understands it is not indulged in. He understands it is not delighted in. Abhinanadita. If he feels painful feeling, he understands it is impermanent. He understands it is not indulged in. He understands it is not delight in. If he feels neither painful nor pleasant feeling, he understands it is impermanent. He understands it is not indulged in. He understands it is not delighted in. If he feels a pleasant feeling, he feels it detached. If he feels a painful feeling, he feels it detached. If he feels neither a painful or pleasant feeling, he feels it detached. If he feels a feeling limited by the body, by way of the 5 physical sense doors, he understands, I feel a limited by the body. When he feels a feeling limited by life, by way of the mind door, he understands, I feel a feeling limited by life. He understands, with the breakup of the body, following the exhaustion of life, of that is felt, not being delighted in, will become cooled right here. At the 12 sense spheres, mere bodily remains will be left. The third example is, suppose bhikkhus, a person would remove a hot clay pot from a potter's kiln and set it on a smooth ground. Its heat would be dissipated right there, and the fire pot would be left. So too, when he feels a feeling limited to the body, limited to life, he understands. With the breakup of the body, following the exhaustion of life, all that is left, not being delighted in, will become cool right here. Mere bodily remains will be left. The fourth example is bhikkhus. Just as an oil lamp burns in dependence on the oil and the wick, and with the exhaustion of the oil and the wick, it is exhausted through lack of fuel. So too, when a bhikkhu feels a feeling limited to the body, limited to life, he understands with the breakup of the body, following the exhaustion of life, all that is felt, not being delighted in, will become cool right here and there. There is, however, one passage with a varying description and analogy. The monk whose heart is perfectly released attains 6 constant abiding states. Seeing a form with the eye, he is neither elated nor depressed, but rests equanimously, mindful, clearly comprehending, hearing a sound with the ear, smelling a scent with the nose, tasting a flavor with the tongue, contacting a tangible object with the body, cognizing mental states with the mind. He is neither elated nor depressed, but rests equanimous, mindful, and clearly comprehending. When he feels a feeling limited by the body, he understands, I feel a feeling limited by the body. When he feels a feeling limited by life, he understands, I feel a feeling limited by life. He understands, with the breakup of the body, following exhaustion of life, all that is felt, not being delighted in, will become cool right here. Suppose that a shadow is cast by a tree. Along comes a man with an axe and a basket and cuts the tree in the trunk. He then digs and pulls out roots, even that rootlet and root fibers. He chops that tree into logs, and having done so, chops the log into chips. The chip dries in wind and sun, then burns them with fire and makes an ash heap. The ashes he whittles in a strong wind and lets them be carried away by a swift flowing river. That shadow cast by the tree is cut off by the root, made like a palm stump, made not to become again, of the nature not to arise again. In that same way, a monk whose heart is perfectly released attained 6 constant abiding states. All that is felt, not being delighted in, will become cool right here and there. For a thorough understanding of the 2 kinds of nibbāna, let us go back to examine the commentarial explanation, as mentioned earlier in the Pali Canon of the Tipitaka, that describes the event, the death of an arahant, in particular of Gautama Buddha. However, the commentaries began to use the term Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna to describe an event as well, as can be seen by comparing 2 passages describing the same event. From the Tipitaka, the Pali Canon, these 2 alms givings are of very great fruit, a very great result, more fruitful and advantageous than any other. Which 2? The one is the alms giving after eating, which the Tathagata attains supreme enlightenment. The other, that which he attains nibbāna element without remainder at his final passing. Now the commentary for this is, Gautama Buddha, having eaten the alms food offered by Suchata, attained supreme enlightenment of nibbāna element with remainder. Having eaten chanda, he attained nibbāna element without remainder at his final passing. With the development of the meaning of these 2 terms, they are applied in many commentarial passages to indicate events in the life of Gautama Buddha or the arahants. They are used to emphasize the realization of certain states rather than the nature of the states themselves. From the commentary perspective, the meaning of these 2 kinds of nibbāna is restricted. Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna here refers to the extinguishing of defilements with the 5 skandha remaining, to nibbāna of the arahant while still alive, that is, to the attainment of arahantship. Anupādisesa-nibbāna refers to the ending of defilements with no skandha remaining, that is, to the death of the arahant while still alive. The commentators of the divine anupādisesa-nibbāna, in particular, by applying the principle of final mind, the final consciousness, limited the meaning to refer to an arahant's death. The commentators interpret the Tipitaka passages related to the arahants by distinguishing between Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna and anupādisesa-nibbāna. This is the example from the Tipitaka. Because of the utter ending of tanha, craving, the remainerless fading away and cessation, nirodha, this is nirvana. For a monk who has thus been quenched, free from grasping, there is no more rebirth. The commentators assert that the first sentence of this passage refers to the nibbāna element with remainder. The second sentence refers to the nibbāna element without remainder. The interpretation accords with the Tipitaka passage presented earlier. Combining these commentarial explanations, we can summarize the meanings of these two kinds of nibbānas as follows. Nibbāna element with the remainder is the end of kilesas and asavas and tanha, leading to the harmless, peaceful, and beneficial interaction with the world. Relates to the awakening or arahantship. Nibbāna element without remainder is the ending of being bound to the five skandhas of mental proliferation, of birth, continued existence. It relates to the end of life in the world. The nibbāna relating to the activity of the five sense faculties is Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna. The nibbāna free from the five sense faculty is anupādisesa-nibbāna. In short, the end of defilements is Sa-upādisesa-nibbāna. The end of birth is anupādisesa-nibbāna. The first term refers to nibbāna of an arahant who is still alive. All mental impurities have been removed, but the five sense faculties, the five skandha, still exist. This corresponds with the term coined with the commentators, kilesa-parinibbāna, the extradiction of defilements. The second term refers to nibbāna of an arahant after death, corresponding with the commentary term skandha parinibbāna, release from the sense faculty, the skandhas. In fact, the evidence in the Pali Canon shows that not much significance was given to these two kinds of nibbāna. What are highlighted here are things that can be applied to realize nibbāna clearly for oneself. Lengthy theorizing on these two kinds of nibbāna is likely to complicate a matter that is actually straightforward and may lead to students of Buddhism to overemphasize their importance. Let me go over that one once again. Lengthy theorizing on these two kinds of nibbāna is likely to complicate a matter that is actually straightforward and may lead students of Buddhism to overemphasize their importance. If the examination of the nature of nibbāna becomes too technical, there is a risk that people will form misleading conceptions. This is because the person presenting the explanation may not translate important words accurately and clearly, and the person receiving the teaching may be limited understanding without the terms or points of Dhamma. The misunderstandings may be reinforced by people's emotions. For example, one may read the technical term above and form an impressions of an arahant as someone heartless and indifferent. Therefore, to prevent such misunderstanding, it is important to accompany the study of theoretical teaching with practical application, to see how theory and practice complement one another. An examination into the essential meaning of this theoretical teaching and their expression as real human attributes reveal how these teachings, which may at the first seem contradictory, are compatible and mutually supportive.